When the sheriff's boat pulled up to my dock that morning, I knew right away. Either somebody'd finally caught the knucklehead leaving those ridiculous glass bottles on my property, or I was about to get blamed for something insane. The deputy, a guy who looked like he wanted to melt into his own badge, stepped off the boat with a kind of limp apology in his walk and cleared his throat like he was about to sell me a timeshare. "Mr. Bremer, we've got to report your yacht's been illegally moored on HOA property. Now, if you've ever had your own land, your own dock, and your own damn boat, let me tell you, that sentence'll do something funny to your blood pressure." I blinked twice, took a deep breath. "You mean my dock, on my land, with my yacht?" The deputy just sighed. "Apparently Karen on the peninsula says she's invoking waterway jurisdiction." I laughed. Honestly, I couldn't help it. "Tell Karen I'm about to invoke courtroom annihilation." And right there, standing in the morning light, I realized this was going to be one of those chapters in my life. My name's Tyson Bremer, and at 42, I'd finally clawed my way out of the corporate jungle, survived enough meetings to last 10 lifetimes, and bought the one thing I'd been dreaming of since I was 22. A piece of heaven on Cattail Sound, a marshy slice of coastal Carolina with 3 acres, a plain but perfect bungalow, and a 42-foot yacht I called the Digital Detox. The kind of place where you wake up to the sound of egrets instead of Slack notifications. I worked remote just enough to keep the lights on, and the rest of my time, I spent fishing, reading, and generally minding my own business. What I hadn't counted on was living across the inlet from Trisha Lormont, though you'd better believe nobody called her that. To everybody around here, she was Karen, HOA president of Bayside Dunes, self-declared queen of laminated bylaws, and a woman with a bob cut so sharp it looked like a weapon. Here's the real kicker. My property wasn't in her HOA. It wasn't in any HOA. I made sure of that when I bought it. But Karen, bless her brittle little heart, decided I was the aesthetic liability across the water and started making me the star of every HOA newsletter she could mail out. At first, I figured she'd get bored and move on. But no, she was like a mosquito with a clipboard. She started by sending her kids over in a canoe, dead serious, with bottles stuffed full of HOA guidelines and friendly suggestions. One morning I find this glass bottle knocking against my dock. Inside, a 12-page screed about appropriate nautical colors. Apparently, the navy blue of my yacht was aggressively masculine and disrupted the coastal serenity palette. I started keeping the bottles, figuring if I ever needed a laugh, I could reread them. But it wasn't so funny when she cranked it up a notch. Next came the formal cease and desist letters on fancy HOA letterhead, threatening that my yacht obstructed the community's visual harmony and violated the sanctity of our shared waterscape. All certified mail, too, which, by the way, meant she was spending HOA funds to harass someone not even in the damn association. That one still makes me smile. But the cherry on top? I put up a string of solar lights for safety along my dock. 48 hours later, a citation arrives, unlicensed illumination, apparently violating the Bayside Marine Ambience Code. I couldn't tell if I was in a sitcom or a Kafka novel. The day I found a notice of dock seizure chained to one of my pylons, with a bike lock, I knew she'd lost the plot entirely. She'd printed it on heavy card stock, embossed the HOA seal on it, and declared my dock a navigational hazard. I had to get the bolt cutters out. Took pictures of everything, especially the gash that chain left on my dock. Now here's where things got good. See, Karen finally went too far. High on her own supply of self-importance, she actually hired a towing company. Yeah, a real, professional outfit, to move my yacht off her property. I'll never forget it. I'm on my deck, sipping coffee, and I hear this diesel growl. Look up, and there's a commercial towboat coming straight for my dock, 2 guys getting out chains. But Karen didn't count on my security setup, which, in classic software architect fashion, included a drone that live-streamed every inch of my property straight to my phone and to my lawyer's inbox. The second those guys stepped on my dock, that drone was up, and my lawyer, Maya Bronson, was on a call with the sheriff before they even got a chain around my cleat. Maya's the type who eats jurisdictional overreach for breakfast. She had an emergency injunction filed before the sheriff's boat even hit the water, and by the time those tow guys saw the flashing lights coming down the sound, they practically leapt off my dock. The damage was done, though. Karen had just put herself on a legal island, and there was no bridge back. 3 weeks later, We're in court. Judge Fenwick, 70 years old, a Navy vet who's been sailing these waters since before Bayside Dunes was a twinkle in a developer's eye, is running the show. Karen walks in like she's about to accept an Admiralty commission. Anchor brooch, Navy blazer, gold buttons, the whole 9 yards. She's got a binder the size of a cinder block and a PowerPoint she insists on running herself. You can picture it, right? She gets up, starts talking about community waterway aura infringement, and something she calls unified shoreline philosophy. Then, with a straight face, she says maritime aesthetic sovereignty. I could hear somebody in the back stifle a laugh. Judge Fenwick listens, lets her go on, then holds up his hand. "Ma'am," he says, as if explaining gravity to a toddler. "That man's dock is on a separate tax parcel. You have no jurisdiction over his property whatsoever." I swear, you could see the moment she realized the game was up. Her face went so red I thought she'd pop. She tried to argue community standards transcend property lines, but Judge Fenwick banged his gavel and boomed. "This is America, not Atlantis. Your HOA rules stop at your property line." Case dismissed. But he wasn't done. My counterclaim, for harassment, attempted theft, emotional distress, was not only allowed, it got fast-tracked because of how wild Karen's behavior had been. That's when Maya went to work. She laid out every piece of evidence. The bottles, the phony legal notices, the drone footage of the attempted yacht theft. But the kicker? She'd subpoenaed the HOA's financials. Turns out Karen had spent over $15,000 of association money on her personal crusade. Everything from waterway beautification to legal expenses and that towboat stunt. You should have seen the faces of the other HOA board members in the courtroom. Pale as bedsheets. Then Maya played the drone video, and the whole courtroom saw how those tow operators were about to scrape up my hull. Damage that could have cost over $100,000 to fix. Judge Fenwick's face just got darker and darker. When Maya finished, he asked Karen, "Do you have any legal basis for this?" She mumbled something about implied maritime comments. The judge was not amused. The judgment? Brutal and beautiful. Karen was ordered to pay $35,000 for legal fees, damages, and harassment. She got slapped with a restraining order, couldn't come within 500 feet of my place by land or water. And, get this, she was sentenced to 100 hours of community service, focused specifically on property law education, and had to attend a seminar titled Property Lines. They're not just suggestions. But Fenwick was on a roll. He ordered the entire Bayside Dunes HOA to post signs at every waterfront spot. Objects across the inlet are not under your control. And send me a written apology from the board. Oh, and any future HOA president? They had to complete a jurisdictional limits course before taking office. The look on Karen's face, she might as well have been keel-hauled. That night, the Bayside Dunes board met. She was booted from the presidency on the spot, unanimous vote. Banned from the board for life. And they hit her with a civil suit to claw back the money she'd burned on her vendetta. Word spread fast. People in Pelican Cove called it the Yacht incident. Karen's real estate business tanked. Her clients evaporated. Her husband finally filed for divorce, cited irreconcilable differences and financial recklessness. Even her mother, who'd sat in court looking like she wanted the floor to swallow her, was overheard saying, "I warned her." And the hits kept coming. The DA charged Karen with attempted grand theft, fraud, and misuse of fiduciary funds. She was convicted, got 2 years probation, 300 hours of extra community service, and $50,000 in fines. When the judge read the sentence, Karen's mask finally cracked. She sobbed, muttering about just trying to maintain standards, as the bailiff led her out of the courtroom. I'll be honest, part of me felt for her. A small part, the part that likes watching train wrecks. But mostly, I felt relief and a little bit of wicked satisfaction. You ever seen a bully finally meet their match, and the whole crowd just exhales at once? That's how it felt, like justice, loud and clear, right where everyone could see it. But here's the kicker, and maybe this is where you come in. In your opinion, where should the line be drawn? Should a community protect its vibe at all costs? Or does personal property still mean something in America? Drop your thoughts below. Let's hear where you stand on justice, boundaries, and what happens when an HOA president goes way too far.